Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending where you're at. Welcome to Analysts Gone Wild. Robert Kramer with more insights and strategy. I got a great team here today. We're excited to talk about this episode 34. Sam, I am tracking it. So we are on the 34th edition of this. And Robert Kramer, like I said, I handle ERP, SCM, data, other things that associate with that. We talk about a lot of great stories here. Let's go through the team here, what we want to, who we are and where we're at today. Ken, what's going on? Where are you at?
Hey there. Well, so Ken Gonzalez, pretty simple group. I'm located in Portland, Oregon, covering infrastructure and operations, CIO topics, and general AI stuff. It's a nice overcast day here, a little on the cool side, so I'm liking it.
Great, John. I see you on meetings. We cover a lot of cool stuff together. I'll be. It looks like September, October, November is going to be heating up with a lot of different events, and I'm sure I'll see you in the analyst rooms. Having a iced tea or something like that, checking out our emails and whatnot, and talking about what's going on at that event. Where are you at today, and what's going on?
I'm in the back cave, but that won't last for much longer, man. It's about time for Carmex. But yeah, it's going to be fun making sense of the agentic carnival that's coming up. But yeah, focus as a co-founder of Diginomica on real world transformation. But I become a AI geek because I just felt a strong need to really understand what people were saying on a deeper level, so I wouldn't fall for the rope and dope. Having said that, I got a little surprise for you guys today because I made a list a few days ago of my most hated buzzwords in tech right now. There's about 10 of them. They're all on this little pad here. I'm not going to show it, but most of them are AI related. But if any of them are used during the show or on the press releases, I'm going to have to do something. I'm going to do a buzzer or something. But anyway, hopefully we'll be buzzword free today, and I won't even have to reference it. But we'll see.
Please.
I doubt that will be the case.
Ken is skeptical that we can get through without some. Yeah, maybe not.
Yeah, I doubt it.
Maybe not.
Dan, what about you?
Yeah, and John, being a rival, I don't know if Gupta ERP is going to be a buzzword in your book.
It started a trend, Sam. It's not there yet, but
it's
be
not
careful,
there yet.
man.
Okay,
you are definitely trending. Yeah, you are.
Well, let's see.
Trying my best. So Sam Gupta here, principal at IQ, also host of WBS Talks. Robert, over to you.
Well, let's go. We got look like we had a lot of ERP today. What do you think, Sam?
Yeah, so I'll
let's jump into the first story here.
Yeah.
We have Sage. Everybody's heard of Sage. They are acquiring Fyle. I guess that's how you say it. It's an expense management system. So if we don't know who Sage is, I would say my viewpoint is they're probably top 10, top 15 ERP vendor. They have a lot of different solutions like Sage Intacct, Sage X3, Sage 100, Sage 300, 500. Some of those have gone away. Sage 50. The expense management system adds some pretty good value. I was trying to see, is this a hype or a real thing? I think it's more real because it's a pain point. Fyle has some problem solving, ways that they can help out with Sage. I'd have to dive in a little bit deeper where they're integrating this with from a application perspective with Sage, but I think it's probably going to be more with Intacct. Sam, if you can correct me if I'm wrong, but this is probably a pretty positive thing because it's an important key to the finance teams and closing times and automate audits and stuff like that. What do you guys all think? You want to start with Ken at the bottom?
I'm actually not familiar with them, so I don't know that I have a real opinion on it, except that I know that when it comes to sales and operations planning, being able to cost control is a very real thing these days. So anything that has helps have customer have a more integrated view of things, I'm generally a fan of, as long as it's not too expensive.
John, you probably have a pretty good flavor of this with your experience. What do you think?
So yeah, if you'll permit me one shameless plug during this show, I released a podcast with Sage CTO Aaron Harris, which is free to consume, that gets into the history of Sage's AI evolution, which is, I think, pretty interesting because when I told Aaron on the podcast that I was really depressed a number of years ago when Sage acquired Intacct, because Intacct had this multi-tenant purity dedicated to solving finance problems, and I was concerned about how that could get swallowed up into Sage. But what's been interesting is that instead of that, they've really used the Intacct architecture as an inspiration for creating a different model for all of Sage's products. So one of the cool things about how Sage does these things is that while you are right, Robert, that they would start by, I think, integrating things like this with Intacct because, it's multi-tenant cloud, it's easier to integrate. They make these kinds of acquisitions available to all Sage products through an AI service delivery mechanism they call the Sage AI Factory. But essentially what they do is they deliver AI services for all the products, which I really kind of like, because in the ERP market, you see a lot of vendors that kind of make you do a bit of a forced march upgrade in order to access AI services. And Sage, I think, is smart not to do that as much, because in general, you want your customers to be able to consume your innovation now, right? Like, because not everyone has time to do like an ERP upgrade just at the snap of the fingers in today's market. And so I do like that. But in general, what you're seeing, and we'll probably see more of these releases in our discussions today, is a lot of snapping up of smaller niche AI vendors that fill gaps and essentially provide both data and functionality so that you can complete processes for people. Because one thing that's not going to work well is when you ask the AI to handle your latest batch of expenses, which Fyle handles, right? But maybe you didn't have all those features, and maybe you're getting like errors back, like I don't have that information. The agent can't do what we want it to do. So we're going to see a ton of these. The incumbents want to snap these vendors up, obviously, because they want to ingest that into their platforms before these vendors become large and potent enough to take their business away from them. So that's what we're seeing right now.
Well, I think it's even a step further, and we're going to see this over the next year, is where these ERP systems are going. I mean, I think they're trying to get as much technology as they can to have almost like a rewritten system with the architecture, Sam, that we kind of been talking about for the last couple of weeks. That's potentially on the list. They have to have a vision over the next 5 years. They have way too many customers, and there's no way that it's just at just a small level like this. But Sam, what do you think?
Yeah, so it's very interesting, and I think I agree with John. Overall, with his assessment that when they acquired Intacct, that was the real intent in terms of what they wanted to do with their technology infrastructure. But unfortunately, when you talk at the field level, okay, it's not happening. To be completely honest, it's not happening. So when they talk about that, okay, I have the centralized strategy at the corporate level, at the executive level, and I'm going to use this centralized AI architecture, integration, etc. That is not happening at the field level. So every single team is still very siloed the way they operate. To be completely honest, every single product in their portfolio. When you talk about integration, and I think, Robert, you asked the question, which one this is going to be integrated with. So my assumption always is going to be, whenever they are acquiring any sort of cloud native products, they are probably going to be integrated with Sage Intacct. And it says on the last bullet that Sage Intacct and Sage 300 CRE. When you have this bullet point, my assumption always is going to be that, why are you integrating with Sage 300 CRE in 2025? It doesn't make any sense, right? But at the same time,
I thought they're sunsetting. They sunsetted 500, right? Are they sunsetting? Thought they were putting all their eggs into 100 and Intacct.
Yeah, it's tricky. So Sage 500 was always more of the manufacturing solution, to be completely honest. Sage did not have as much market share in manufacturing. Sage 500 was, I would say, a decent product. Sage X3 has a lot more market share in the process manufacturing, pharma, food-centric spaces. That's where Sage sort of rules. They have been trying to get the manufacturing version out from the Sage Intacct perspective. I don't know how well that is doing in North America. They do a lot better in countries like France, Europe, a lot. Sorry, John.
The Sage Intacct manufacturing, I think, is a bit more of a niche product at this point. It's not intended to replace these other products.
Sage 500 is a legacy product. They don't have a cloud migration path, as far as my understanding goes.
Right.
So, what is going to be the replacement? Either Sage XT or Sage Intacct. Those are the only cloud native products that they have in the portfolio. They have been positioning other products as cloud as well, but I don't know if they have a true migration path for them. But again, they have a lot of installations on 300, 500 even today. So that's why I think they have to do something about them. But I don't know how easy it is going to be for them to migrate to Sage Intacct, because Sage Intacct is a very different product. It's very lean. It does not have the same functionality the way your Sage 500 product or Sage X3 is going to have. So it's tricky. Even Sage Intacct manufacturing, I don't know how many customers have already adopted. Very, very, very few right now. Some customers I know, they are probably running pilot, but again, it's very lean. In terms of the capabilities, Sage Intacct, if you talk to Sage Intacct team, they always say that they want to be more of best of suite, is the mindset that they are trying to promote. But now they are acquiring all of these products. So where is best of suite? That's where I struggle a little bit overall in terms of the strategy as well as the field alignment.
I agree. So, all right. Anything else? Ken, you want to close anything out there, or should we move on to the next one? Okay. We'll try and get a lot in. Now we do have to end early at the top of the hour, so we make sure that everybody gets off to their next appointment meeting, and the people listening in are able to as well. Sam, do we have any questions or anything yet?
No, we don't, but we probably should do a call out for the audience. Hey guys, if you're listening to this show, I mean, we love your comments. So we would love to see them. We would like to review. We always like to track them. So any comments, any stories, any insights that you have, we would love to see them. All right, Robert, over to you.
So SysPro, another great system for manufacturing and distribution, acquiring Datascope, and Datascope's a warehouse management software. And they've had a relationship with SysPro, I believe, if you can correct me if I'm wrong, Sam. And this relationship is now being, I guess, fulfilled with the acquisition. So I believe they've already had integrations into it. So now they're just more like tying the bow. Is that correct, Sam?
Yeah, so this one, my understanding is this is another acquisition that they have for Datascope. They have acquired multiple WMS products. We saw one MES product as well, Robert. I don't know if you remember this or not.
Yeah, last couple of weeks.
Yeah, but I mean, a lot of these are ISVs. So SysPro used to be developer of ERP solutions. I don't know how many they have acquired in the past, but now there is a handshake there in terms of private equity change, and John is going to probably have a lot more insight than I do. Because of that, I think they have become very aggressive acquirer, and we are going to see this trend even in the future. So this is WMS. I think I commented last time as well that any WMS acquisition that they are doing, it is lining their capabilities up with the likes of NetSuite and Acumatica. Traditionally,
Epicor as well.
I mean, Epicor and Infor, they were always more of the suite-centric solution, purpose-built is how they like to position. SysPro, I don't know if they were always purpose-built from the marketing perspective. That's how they wanted to come across. But from the strategy perspective, I don't know if there was a real alignment, to be completely honest. So now either they are aligning their strategy with the likes of Infor Epicor, but they also have very decent partner ecosystem, just like NetSuite and Acumatica. So I would not say NetSuite Acumatica are comparable with your Infor Epicor, because they have very different strategy, both of them. So SysPro is sort of in between, I guess. So I don't know where they are going to end up, but it's very interesting that they have become acquirer.
Well, it seems like, and I'll turn to you, John, that it's a defensive and offensive move, because they're able to make sure that they have the solution, and then they're able to provide it for their customers, between that link from the shop floor to ERP, et cetera. But it's important for them to own, and John, you probably have a good opinion on this, own that type of technology for their customers, so somebody else doesn't, get this company. They already have it embedded somewhat. But John, what do you think?
Right. So one of the biggest conversations in ERP right now is the difference with Acumatica and NetSuite is that they were sort of built with cloud ERP in mind. And so essentially, you could debate a little bit on Acumaticus architecture, but essentially multi-tenant solutions for the cloud. They don't have legacy install bases on different releases and things like that. But when you talk about the Syspros and the M4s and the Sages of the world, they're all undertaking modernization efforts with some urgency, because ERP is, sorry, Sam, not the sexiest moniker in today's market. And so you want to provide a modern platform and a modern solution. And while we talk a lot about the AI part, just as important is the industry part. Like, ERP really needs to have a strong industry component. And this general back office ERP is not exciting and doesn't move the needle. So if you're playing in the manufacturing space and you have clients running separate warehouse systems than your ERP, well, to Sam's point earlier, you have data silos, you have problems integrating those systems. That doesn't put you in a good position for your AI initiatives. And so when you're acquiring, as Syspro clearly has an appetite for acquiring right now, they're going to try to fill those gaps, and warehouse management seems to make a lot of sense. But again, with any acquisition, you have to take a step back and say, well, this looks good on paper, but how are they going to execute on it? And so I'm always really careful not to throw a party when a vendor makes a smart purchase.
Right. Ken, what are your thoughts?
I actually like John's comments. I think that one of the things that's interesting about any of the general purpose vendors, if you're not actually looking at some sort of verticalization strategy to be able to include other technologies that extend your reach and give you the ability to look at the flow of work across the entire organization, you're really, I think, compromising yourself. You need to do that long term, because if you are going to introduce automation solutions, you are going to make changes to the flow of work, you need to understand the impacts and be able to use tools to go through and look at those different data sets and have a way of rationalizing it. And I think that the way that the vendors are going out acquiring different companies isn't just a defensive move, but it's really a way of being able to bring some sense to the areas that their customers work in. So I like it.
Great. Sam, you want to close us out? What do you think?
No, I think it's pretty good. If you want to go to the next one, we can probably do that. Let's see if you have any comments. No. So yeah, let's go to the next one.
Yep. So we have this one. We got NetSuite. So we've been talking a little bit. Why the change, Sam, from CRM to ERP all of a sudden? We have a lot of good ERPs here.
I mean, we just mix them up, I guess. I don't know. I mean, see, I'm not planning this, but you never know. When you are talking to an ERP guy, you are on the ERP show. Doesn't matter whether John likes it or not. You are going to get a lot more ERP stories.
So NetSuite AI connector service. So NetSuite is an Oracle product. Obviously, it didn't start like that, but Oracle owns it. It's a cloud ERP mid-market. They launched an AI connector service supporting MCP. So this is probably a pretty good real move. ERP is adopting MCP as a standard. From a perspective from an AI. I think it's a pretty impactful positions NetSuite, the flexibility to to openness with its ERP peers, and also differentiates them a little bit from others. My take is this is a good move. I think I would be a little cautious from it working correctly and getting everything from challenges. It's not as simple as everybody thinks it is. I think it's a long-term asset, specifically certified connectors to like Anthropic, OpenAI, Google Gemini over the next year. John, what do you think?
Oh man, this one came really close to my buzzword alert. And okay, so just as some context here, is the word context is important in this scenario. The reason that enterprise AI has a chance of being smarter than the consumer AI that is like kind of making embarrassing mistakes all the time is the result of context. And so it's the ability to put data into the LLM for consideration via prompts that helps it to understand what context it should be dealing with. And MCP is a promising emerging protocol to help with that, because it gives the agent an ability to make quote unquote tool calls to relevant sources of data and systems to help it provide better output. And so one of the good signs with this MCP protocol is the number of vendors that really don't get along with each other and don't like each other have signed on to this protocol. And that's what you're looking for with the new protocol, because if only certain sponsored vendors sign on, then you have to be a little skeptical. And by the way, this is an Anthropic protocol, just FYI. But I like that the sign-ons are there, and I like the concepts behind it, and I like the idea that NetSuite wants to make it easier for their customers to utilize this type of thing, because it's going to make their AI, quote unquote, smarter, if you can accept that term for this. However, MCP has serious security issues, and if I were NetSuite, I would have put something in there, or they had a little bit on governance, but I would have emphasized how we're working to lock down the security aspects of this. If you do a Google search on MCP security issues, you will see what I'm talking about. There's a variety of concerns, including
I love to hear those. So what do you?
Including prompt injection, tool poisoning, and privileged abuse. The reason that MCP servers pose security risks is because they have an ability to execute commands and perform API calls. And so that's a pretty major issue. And from an LLM perspective, it's not that hard to convince LLMs to give up things that they might not want to give up. And so you have to bear in mind that MCP can be part of this quote unquote manipulation change, which includes, faux authentication and perhaps, supply chain risks. And so, look, there are ways of tackling this. Like, it's not like it can't be solved. But at this point in time, I'm glad that NetSuite is trying to do this, because customers of NetSuite can now go to NetSuite and say, what are you doing about locking down this protocol from a security perspective, and get the details for themselves on that and satisfy themselves on that. But if I were a vendor like NetSuite, and I'm not just picking on NetSuite here because most vendors are making this mistake, I would be a little more proactive about saying that we're aware of these issues, including the prompt injections and other things around these, giving us MCP so much power into your systems. And we are locking this down, and we're figuring out how to control it.
Do you think we need to slow this down a little bit, Sam? Not us, but this MCP stuff. The customers, the vendors need to meet the customers where they're at. And where they're at is in all different phases of, I would say, innovation aptitude. And with that, some customers they're not even going to be considering MCP. Some customers are already waiting for it. Is it proven that it works? Because based on what John says, it's up in the air.
Yeah. So I guess, when you talk about whether it works or not, nothing works, I guess, to be completely honest. It's very rare to see something working, because the problem is not necessarily these systems or vendors. The problem always is going to be in your favorite topic, Robert, and that is the change management, the data, the processes that they have, right? So yeah, I don't know if the kind of customers that we deal with, to be completely honest, Robert, they are not necessarily excited about MCP or AI. They are probably migrating their legacy GPs or ECCs or mainframes. Sometimes you'll be shocked that customers are running mainframe right now. If you look at their marketing documents, they are going to be super fancy PDFs. You would not believe that they are printed using mainframe, but they are.
Oh no, I believe it, because that's where I learned ERP in the 90s. But the number one thing that customers need is trust, and I'm not sure they're getting it.
Sorry, go ahead, John. Yeah.
Oh no, you first. I'd like to hear what you say about that.
Yeah, in terms of the story, to be completely honest, I don't know. I'm super lost and confused with this story. I don't know what's going on. John, I don't know if you are going to have any more translation there for me. But did they launch their own MCP? Because I'm hearing a lot of different stories where vendors are claiming that they have launched their own LLMs and MCP. Here, my assumption is going to be this is just the connector as well as integration, so that you can integrate with MCP. And I don't know if this is going to be as part of their what is that, NSPV, I believe, product. They seem to be promoting that a lot more than ERP. And John, I think they don't believe in ERP either, because if you look at their sales reps as well as NetSuite overall, they like to promote their NSPV product a lot more in general. And I don't know if I would see that the MCP, the scope of MCP is going to be more towards NSPV product or towards the ERP workflows. And I don't think that is clarified here, to be completely honest. So that's my take. Yeah, go ahead, John. Sorry.
Well, you have pretty high expectations from a press release, Sam. You're not going to get all that meat there, but the gist of it is what they're trying to do, from what I can tell, is to help customers rationalize some of their own AI investments and connect some of that into their NetSuite infrastructure. And the initiative to me makes sense, because if you're a NetSuite customer, you are expecting NetSuite to help you deliver AI embedded into your processes. But where vendors make mistakes gets back to Robert's point, which is, I want to adopt this on my own terms at my own pace.
Yeah.
And I need that tone. And I think vendors sometimes really want you to think, oh, we're on top of all this new technology, instead of saying, don't worry, we're going to roll this out to you in a sensible way that allows you to turn on features when you're satisfied that you're ready and this makes sense to you. So I would argue for like a bit of a different tone for a lot of these press releases for that reason. But you're never going to get all your questions answered. But what I would say is that NetSuite has a major user conference coming up that's followed immediately by Oracle's user conference. I won't be at NetSuite's, but I will be at Oracle's, and I will, have the opportunity to dig into this announcement on site and learn a little bit more around the specifics. But I think you guys are making a more important point, which is the specifics of the announcement are important and useful, but the challenge for vendors is, are we delivering enough that customers can really utilize today to solve their pending problems today, while also providing the stepping stones they may need in the future? And that's the question that we don't always get a good answer to. And because customers have pending issues with their own customer base, with supply chain volatility, all of that, they need stuff they can work on now too. And vendors need to get that balance right. But in terms of like how futuristic protocols are, MCP at least is a little more practical, I would say, than A2A. A2A is a little more science fiction at this point, because it involves agents talking to each other. MCP is a little more geared towards helping one agent make a proper decision on which information to get and how to get it, and how to do that in a well-orchestrated way. So at least it's not science fiction in terms of getting a bunch of agents to try to talk to each other.
So, John, question for you. So, my assumption of the AI architecture, which I have very little knowledge of, so my understanding was that MCP was going to do all of that A2A communication as well as everything else that you mentioned, right? Is that not true?
Well, there's some overlap between MCP and A2A, but MCP is really geared towards helping an LLM agent orchestrate calls to whatever it needs to do, which could be traditional databases, it could be API calls. So it's a little more, it can do some of the agent to agent stuff if you want to try that, but it's not the same as just putting two agents in a room together and saying, hey, talk to each other and figure out, this process, which I think is where the real work needs to happen, and is definitely not ready. Whereas if you can tackle some of the MCP security issues, you can get some things done with MCP today. However, having said that, like what they're talking about doing here, connecting a customer's own AI to NetSuite, that is a little more advanced in my mind than just a database tool call or an API. So we'll just have to see. I mean, I would proceed very carefully with that. But then, a lot of customers don't have their own successful AI programs right now. So I'm not sure, like you said, you're talking to customers right now. A lot of them maybe aren't focused on that right now. So,
yeah. Ken, what do you think? You've been sitting back on this one and a few other ones. Give us some feedback.
Well, so in this one, so I'll start off by agreeing with John again. I love his concerns about security with regards to thinking about the MCP. So the thing, and I also think he mentioned a very important word, orchestration. So if you think about MCP in a very limited context, as though, oh, this is just a way to be able to, have tools talk to and access LLMs. It's a very limited view of the world. And I would encourage people to think about MCP, and I'll date myself and go back in time here and think about it like Corba. Now you might say, well, Corba, what's that? Well, so object request brokers and being able to provide an interface that's reliable and repeatable, that you can actually call components and do data operations. You can have specific behaviors. So it does, number one, require security and trust. So if you don't have that, then you got a problem. But the second thing is that and I think the thing that Corba provided that we don't see with the current crop of MCP tools is the ability to do introspection and find out what kind of service. It requires a lot more manual effort to go through and say, this is what this particular MCP server can do. How do I use it? I think we're going to see a lot more customers that are going to be developing their own stuff to free up elements inside of their enterprise that are now kind of walled off, and expose those through MCP so that they can actually use workflow tools to go through and say, okay, I'm going to take this piece from here, I'm going to put it here, I'm going to perform this operation, I'm going to take that result set and now do something with it. As we start doing it, well, how do you get your hands around all that complexity and not turn it into something which is going to go out of control, and potentially when somebody changes one of their components, what's the impact on the thing that you just built or deployed that you're now running your business off of? I really like the fact that NetSuite is going through and talking about, hey, I'm now going to give you the capability to connect. But the larger issue is the management. And I think until we start seeing tools that are going to help us with that, it's still going to be the Wild West out there.
Well, let's take a step back. If you're a manufacturing company, I mean, what's most important? Production, sales, but
keep the line moving.
Yeah, keep the line. But security is a big deal. So if I'm going to open up any floodgate, I need to understand that it's going to be a positive, something positive back to me. This is one of the reasons why companies aren't going to the cloud, is because if a production company, what do they only care about? Like we said, production. That cannot be tarnished at all. They don't care about what technology could help them. If it's going to have all these hoops, they're not interested. They have to have production. It cannot change at all. It has to be an added value no matter what. I don't think there's enough to move the needle on things like this. These are too small change. I think there has to be some more substantial, movement for these larger companies that want to, buy into this. This is my opinion. And then the security thing is just a major issue. Going back to me as a production company, security is just a non-starter. So this is why companies are still stuck 20 years ago, because they haven't felt the needle's been moved enough. Or going back to what Sam loves to talk about, that he thinks that I love to talk about, is change management. So it's also the fear factor. These companies, there are enormous amount of fear getting over the hump. And then when they go for transformation, not to preach, they don't have it set up to actually implement. We used to do it where we told the companies to hire temps to do the real work and have the existing resources do the implementation, so they learn and it's done right, and they have enough resources to keep the production going. So anyway, any comments on that? John, you might have something.
Yeah.
Or Sam?
Yeah. So, Robert, I guess on that comment, if you talk about the biggest pain point, especially when it comes to security, and when you talk to these manufacturers, to be completely honest, they don't necessarily care for the security unless they are going to be hacked. We still see like those SharePoint links floating around, hosted somewhere, we don't know where. They can be hacked overnight.
But set up that nobody knows who started them.
Yeah, but I mean, who cares for a $30 million manufacturing company unless we are going to have the power of AI now, which means, hacking is probably going to be on a steroid. Nobody cared in the past because nobody got hacked. Unless your neighbor is going to be hacked or your competitor is going to be hacked, then okay, I need to worry about it. But for the most part, nobody cares unless there is going to be a problem. You have a bunch of cybersecurity guys, obviously you have some state money, government money to do the cybersecurity assessment, but cybersecurity people also don't know what they don't know. So they are going to do some infrastructure level, some test, but nobody really understand truly where the security loopholes are the way John was trying to describe. I don't think anybody is doing that level of assessment with any of the applications. If they did, I mean, there'll be real loopholes that nobody wants to know about.
John, any thoughts on all this?
No, I mean, Sam and I could have a long debate about security. I would disagree with some of his characterizations of the level of concern on that. It's funny how quickly your opinion changes once you get exploited and hacked.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing it as a pretty high priority. Risk around these solutions is a pretty high priority raised by the CXO levels, at least with the ones with their asses on the line when things go wrong. And they often write the checks for these projects, so, but I think this is a healthy conversation. And I think, to me, that's what I like about this type of environment on this show, is that we can actually have this back and forth. We won't resolve this today because we're covering a bunch of stories, but with what Ken said and what you all said, I think you have a much more robust feeling about MCP in just a few minutes here. Hopefully that helps you. And that's why I really believe in this kind of interaction. And I hope people also dive into it, because if you just read these releases on your own time, how could you possibly make sense of this?
Right. I actually disagree with Sam about the security, because I think it is a gigantic concern, no matter what, if you're 30 million or 300 million, or 3 billion. And all the major ERPs are releasing this type of function. So it's not, or tools, it's not just NetSuite. It's, Microsoft has it. Oracle has it, SAP has it, Infor has it. So they're all having it. I still think it's a big deal with security, John, like you're talking about. And I don't know why it wouldn't be. This is one of the reasons why, when some of these companies have these older systems, they kind of feel more constrained with features, but more, I guess, they have a handle on the security a little better. But I don't know if you all agree or disagree with that. But that's one of the concerns, Sam, that you might see going to the cloud, that they don't understand fully how they're going to have the same security.
I think where I would agree with Sam on that is if I mean, we don't have a long discussion on this, but on the manager level and on the rank and file level, I think there's often a shocking lack of regard for security, right? And even just looking at this level of shadow AI adoption within companies, quote unquote, right, where people are more than willing to put company IP into these tools and get whatever results they need and go on with their lives. So some of that is pretty shocking, right? But I do think that when you bring decision makers who write checks into a room for really big projects anyway, you're going to hear about risk management one way or the other. And it might not just be security. That's not the only risk. But they're the ones that get fined and dinged too, because there's regulatory implications for some of this shit also.
But don't you think that a lot of the large, SaaS security companies, there's a gap, because they say they cover ERP, but I don't think they really do. And then the ERP companies say they handle it when it moves to the SaaS, but applications. But in the end, it's the customers that own that responsibility, and there's a gap there. So
yeah, and the really funny thing is that customers will ask SaaS vendors really hard questions about security, but then when you press them on their own security budgets, you find out they're underinvesting in security.
Yeah.
And security specialists go around. I just did a piece a while ago on this, and the whole thing was like, how the hell do you make a business case for this stuff? And it seems like it should be easy to make that case, but in fact, it's not. And so that's, I think, getting back to Sam's point, that there's a complicated web here of concern and indifference that's not easily summarized.
All right,
I
Sam,
think a portion of this has to relate to attitude. So, when you think about what John has been saying here, I think that just looking at it from like a SaaS security vendor perspective, they've got one slice and one view of the world. I think this has more to do with the adopting organization's attitude, because when you go through and you look at the risk landscape, there are more things to manage and mitigate than we either have time, money, or attention. So each organization actually needs to go through, and for everything that they build or deploy, you've got to go through and think about all the different ways that you might be exposing yourself. You might be having critical vulnerabilities and this starts early in the process. This isn't, oh, now I got stuff, let me look at those things. No, you have
Yep.
to start. It's from a defense in depth strategy. You have to start early in the life cycle to be sure that you're going to be able to identify the risks and vulnerabilities that might be at play.
I think it's so complicated. That's part of the problem as well. But people don't like change. Sam talks about change management. I talk about it. When companies make these changes, they have to change their whole processes for the better. And when they start looking under the hood, they see how bad their data is and their processes, and they're like, "Oh no, this is a much bigger, transformation than I intended it to be." That's a lot of times why it dies on the vine. So it takes it from the top down. The CEO has got to say, "This is happening. I don't care," and it has to be done. Sam, I don't know. You know what this is about, and or you need the Gupta ERP to come and say, we're going to make it happen. We're going to show you.
Yeah, if you have Gupta ERP, you have no security issues, no problems, no change management problems, no process problems, no data problems.
Does it work though?
It always works. Come on, what are you talking about?
Instant audits, baby.
Yeah, I know, right?
Amazing.
Always works, always on.
Yeah.
All right, let's
That
go
should
to
not be a question, man.
Yeah, any questions we have yet?
We don't have a question, but I think great debate. So I don't know if you want to move to the next story.
Yeah, let's go. Sage 8 Intacct. We're back to them again. So we talked a little bit about who they are. They're adding, new AI-powered tools. Sam, this is a real star for them. Intacct is, one of their best products, and adding new, continue with their AI journey and new, tools. I think with reconciliation, close procurement, AP automation. I'm a big fan of sustainability, and they're doing some carbon accounting and payment integrations. I see this as a real plus, a pain point for the CFO, steps towards ESG reporting. I think one of the biggest struggles they're going to have probably with this is change management, because of the fact they're going to have new processes to integrate these new things. So I think that would be the biggest challenge, but otherwise I see this as a positive.
So in my mind, when I look at this story, to be completely honest, this probably is not going to experience as much change management issues. And the reason for that is...
Do you agree with me at all today?
No, I'm agreeing on this one, I guess. No, but I mean, in this case, the reason why change management is not going to be an issue is because whenever you are dealing with anything that belongs to accounting, finance, CFOs can see that. It's at the departmental level. They generally are very good at finding efficiencies because that's their sort of metrics. So, I mean, I don't think we have had issues in championing any expense related apps or AP workflows apps. CFOs get it. The challenge becomes when you have the cross-functional alignment. That is always the major issue. So either your IT guys are not going to be on board, or the operations guys are not going to be aligned with CFOs, or CFOs are not going to get why you need to integrate all of that. So that's where generally the change management issues are in my mind. But again, I guess my comments on the stories are going to be very similar to what I had before, because here, number one, they are doing a little bit of vendor payments. So, and that is powered by Mineral Tree is the product. I think that's what they have mentioned here. So other products have had this for a while. So why is Sage Intacct so late? That is number one concern that I'm going to have. And then if you are trying to integrate everything as part of your suite, then how are you going to be best of suite? How people or companies in the marketplace or the vendors in the marketplace, how are they going to do business? Again, I like to be very clear in terms of the strategy. So if you are best of suite, then you should be promoting a lot more of your partners and vendors, as opposed to integrating all of that, acquiring all of that. So be clear on the strategies is where my concern is going to be.
So can I just take up that with Sam real quick, Robert?
Yeah, please.
I think Sam's hit on a lot of the right points, and he hit on some good points earlier on Sage's legacy footprint, which is obviously unwieldy. And I do want to be clear that Sage is not a client. But one thing I do want to say is that Sage isn't lagging in a lot of these AI-related areas. So one really interesting thing is they have more than 10,000 customers using Copilot currently. And that's not just Intacct users, but I'm looking forward to learning more about that. now Sam is right that some of this stuff isn't really change management, because some of it is, you look at some of the things here around monitoring, surfacing exceptions and anomalies. This is not totally new stuff. Folks have been surfacing anomalies for a long time. So in that sense, not so new. But one thing that I think is very interesting is that Sage did build its own, trained its own finance specific LLM, which not every vendor in the space has done. And I think that is a really positive step towards providing better AI for finance across their customer base. How well they do with all of that, we shall see. But there's some really interesting stuff around that, because what they found is that GPT off the shelf just didn't understand accounting questions, especially complex accounting questions. Like if you asked it something like, what stock item will I need to reorder soon? It doesn't recognize the accounting terms in that question. And so what they did is they trained in a model that understands that stock is referring to inventory and how that works in the context of finance. And so I think that's actually pretty smart. Now, how that translates into delivering value for customers, that's why we need people like Sam, because just because you did something smart technically doesn't mean you delivered any value. So that's a totally different question.
Yeah. Ken, what do you think?
I'm going to punt.
All right. Someone catch the ball in the 20. Let's see how far we can get on the return.
Yeah.
Yeah. How's the Toronto football team doing, Sam?
Toronto football team? You mean like CFL or?
Yeah.
I don't think they are doing good this year. We just went for one game. I mean, this year is probably better ones for them, but generally they are not as good.
The Blue Jays, are they picking up steam or losing steam?
Blue Jays, now they are not doing as good. They were doing very good, but the stretch is gone now. But I mean, hopefully they still maintain the lead. They are still maintaining the lead, but it's becoming very close. And John, I believe you would be a Red Sox fan, so you guys are cutting close.
Yeah, we're kind of we're interesting but problematic.
Well, moving on, unless we got anything else we want to talk about, we probably get one more story and wrap up.
Yeah, we should be able to accommodate. Yeah,
so we'll talk about Zendesk.
Holy crap, a CX story. Wow.
Yeah, we're back. So Zendesk customer experience platform, they're acquiring an analytics platform with HyperArc. Probably a pretty good move, because it seems that the customer service, shifting from more of a proactive, from a ticket resolution to more of a proactive prevention. So by getting HyperArc, it gives them that direction. I see this as a pretty strong positive. I think there's maybe some challenges as far as packaging it up, but I'm a firm believer this looks pretty good. What do you guys think? Because data is everything. So if they're getting the data, then they're able to help out with this prevention. Let's go to you, Ken, first. What do you think?
Yeah, Ken is going to be like, move on. I'm talking for the next 15 minutes on this.
No, so the thing I really, especially when it comes to the user experience, the supportability context, I really like things that will start to help people understand things and make the shift from a reactive to a proactive management model. The thing that I get concerned about, especially when we start talking about things which are more service desk oriented, where it's direct customer complaint, is how well are they going to be able to look at the broader, so being able to define an application, being able to define a service in context, so that when the technology is actually looking at what the customer is complaining about or what their issue is does it give enough analysis to be able to look across, not just at the surface, but be able to understand it as a whole? I think we've got a lot of room to go in terms of being able to build technology that actually has that level of insight and awareness, because as an industry, we are not doing a good job of defining things in a way which now is understandable across different vendors and across customer contexts. We're still kind of locked into ticket mode. So we have to break free of that in order to start now understanding how we compose, how we actually take applications and break them into their component parts, so we can understand how they all relate together. I think that our AI technology can help us, but we've got a lot of work to do in order to get to that level of insight.
Well said. What do you gents think?
John, do you want to go first?
Oh, I'll just go quickly. I think what I liked about this announcement was Ken made some really important points, but I really like the emphasis on the analytics part, because I think sometimes in the sort of, agentic AI push, we lose track of the fact that providing people with the right information at the right time is a benefit unto itself that helps them do their jobs better. Who cares about automating the hell out of every single thing that touches someone's plate? Let's help them make better sense of what they're doing. And in particular with customers, I think that's really, really helpful to think about. And, in the CX arena, real time turns out to be pretty important, because you're trying to understand your customer in this moment. And if you have last week's data, you may be missing some really crucial interactions. So I really like it as an aspiration. My only caveat, and this isn't on my top 10 like most hated buzzwords, real time. I don't mind it that much, but my caveat is that real time is a little bit of a fantasy when it comes to customer stuff, right? Because my customer experience may have changed just 5 seconds ago, and the chances of you knowing that right now, I think with these current systems are not that great. So I would just caution people to think that real time sounds awesome, but man, it is a beast of a challenge when it comes to the ever fickle consumer.
Sounds good. Anything you want to add, Sam? Go ahead.
Yeah, so my take on this one is going to be, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I understand the technology itself, and I don't know if anybody's going to have any sort of insights. Technology itself, when I say, I mean HyperArc, what they are doing, they are saying AI native analytics. And when I read that, would that mean something similar to what Pipedrive had done? And Robert, I don't know if you remember or not, from Pipedrive's conversation, they were trying to create their own prompts. Mm-hmm. So when you are going to have these reports, and generally that was a big consulting dollar for companies, now technology such as this would be able to do it. But Pipedrive, they were trying to train their own agents, and they were trying to develop this on their own. Here, I don't know if HyperArc is going to do the similar thing, but my take on this would be that this is going to help them enable any sort of AI native analytics as part of the package. Now, if that happens, they are saying this is going to be unified. But unified from whose perspective? And sometimes my struggle always with these things is going to be, hey, you have 50 tools in your architecture. ERP is just one of them. Customer service platform is going to be one of them. CRM is going to be one of them. Everybody's claiming that they are going to have unified analytics, but I don't think it's going to be unified. So am I going to have a lot of overlap? That's number one. Number two, am I going to be paying a lot for this overlap? So that would be my take on these things. Most likely, right, Ken?
Yeah.
Well, sounds good. Well, let's any other comments, Ken or John? I mean, I think this is good progression with these companies at the same time, but let's go into, I have a kind of an interesting closing question. There's say 10 or 15 top ERP companies. There's some new ones coming around that have some pretty interesting architecture. We've talked about them. I see some of these companies merging over time, just because of where things are going over the next 5 years. If you had to choose one or two companies to be merged with another one, who do you think it'd be in the next for 2026? Start with Ken.
Oh gosh. Off the top of my head, I don't have a good answer for you. I think the environment is ripe for lots of consolidation and M&A activity. So that's anybody's guess.
Okay.
I like how Robert set up the whole episode to bring out the best in us, and now he wants to make fools out of us at the very end, so that we look really bad in a few months when we make these ridiculous prognostications as if it's possible to predict these things. I mean, I don't think we're going to see a lot of ERP merger mania in the coming year, Robert, because I don't think that's where the perceived value lives right now in the part of the acquiring companies. I think they're looking to become more quote unquote agile and disrupt themselves. So I think we're going to continue to see a lot of niche vertical applications get acquired to verticalize their AI strategy. So I think most of the acquisitions we see are going to be companies we've never really heard of, rather than, big quote unquote ERP moves. Because a lot of times, what do you do? You have overlapping systems that don't really cooperate with each other. I mean, it all depends on where the market's headed. But if you look at where the pieces fit in the most interesting way, there's no question that Salesforce and Workday have the most interesting complementary set of assets in this market. But as long as both of these companies thrive on their own, like I don't see any incentive for them to go through that. That would be more of a scenario if the established players turn out to be really vulnerable to AI. But what we've seen at the moment is that the incumbents have a lot more advantages than the AI gurus and revolutionaries and evangelists want to believe. And I think we saw the answer to that today, which is vertical expertise, IP, and data.
I mean, it's a great answer. And I think it's a combination of what you said, and definitely they want to they want to acquire companies that we might not have heard of. But I do feel that AI is more of what is disjointed in the ERP world, that it's not fully embedded throughout at the architecture level through the whole application. I think you're going to see a SaaS ERP maybe buying, or vice versa, an on-prem app, and then maybe they have an abundance of customers that they can have a rewritten architecture and move everybody to that, and then play it safe with.
Come on, Robert, give us a name, man. Give us a name. You asked us for a name. Give us a name.
I would see Microsoft and Oracle and SAP acquiring some other companies. I see Sage as being one of those companies that could potentially be acquired. I see Epicor potentially as well. It's just that this is a hypothetical.
Interesting.
I see in 5 years, because you guys even said it, that Sage is behind the gun. Somebody asked me the other day, and I'm watching the clock, Sam. Somebody asked me the other day, like, why is ERP 20 years behind? It's not 20 years behind, but it could appear that way because of the fact that the customers are the ones that are slowing it down. But it's the vendors that also own the technology stage. And I think at the same time, there has to be some better movement. It's moving too slow. And we're seeing small incremental improvements, and I don't think it's at the core as it should be enough. But I don't know, Sam, Gupta ERP is at the forefront. What do we think?
Yeah, Gupta ERP is going to acquire pretty much everybody, or if they don't get acquired, then obviously they are going to get killed. So, I mean, there's no question there in that. But John, I'm going to make some bold statements here, even if that makes me look bad.
All right.
So, Robert, I'm probably going to have a follow-up question for you first, clarifying. So, when you say market consolidation, which direction are we looking at here? Are we looking at whether AI native ones are going to become real categories and one of these major vendors are going to acquire, or are we looking at more of the financial consolidation, the way some of these companies like Constellation was created, or Advantive was created? That's a very different strategy. So which one are you looking at?
I think both, because I think some of those companies, the merger and acquisition companies, will acquire other companies that do something different. So like Advantive, they might own more than one, I don't know if I said their name right, more than one ERP, and use a strategy to eventually consolidate them, but they might keep them separate at the beginning. So I think it's a combination.
Overall, I guess they will all land up somewhere, to be completely honest, because ERP is always very attractive investment, even if people don't care for that. But it's a very, very, very secure investment in general. So that's why a lot of investors want to go after the ERP workloads, because you can create a lot around that. Now, AI native, whether that's going to be a real threat, I think so. But I have not had a chance to review any of the newer ones. For example, let's say if you look at Campfire, Relate is another one, Dual Entry is one more, Everest is another one. I guess those are the AI native categories. So far, I don't believe we have seen them in any of the serious deals. When you look at penetration of Acumatica and NetSuite, when they became threat, they were coming across us in every single deal that we were participating in. And then we knew that, okay, now these guys are going to be acquired because they are real threat. Right now, these guys are not there. They are threat on social media, which does not mean much, to be completely honest. Okay.
Hey, what's wrong with winning LinkedIn for a day, man? You do that.
We all do that. But overall, from the consolidation perspective, I guess AI native is going to be a real threat. AI native architecture is much easier than cloud native architecture. That's my take on this. So a lot of vendors might be able to create that, but there will definitely be some acquisition once these guys become slightly serious and mature in their market penetration. Robert, time to close. We are over 2 minutes right now. All right, guys. So thank you so much for joining. This was Analysts Gone Wild. We meet every Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern. So I'll see you next week.
Thank you.